Welcome back to Books on the Mic, everybody. We're on Chapter 7 now. And if you're liking these deep dives with us, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss a single one. Okay, so for today's deep dive, we are going to be looking at Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Zeratsky.
Awesome.
Yeah, this book is all about how to, well, make time for what matters to you, right? Taking back control of your time and your attention, something that I think we all struggle with in today's world.
Absolutely. And in this world of like to-do lists and distractions and everything pulling at us,
Yeah.
Make Time really offers a refreshing approach.
It does. And you know what's interesting? It starts by really acknowledging the problem. Like right out of the gate, the book opens with John Zeratsky. He goes by Jay-Z.
Right.
And he's talking about how he can't even remember what he did for the past 2 months of his life. He just feels like he's been swept away by this daily grind. And I think so many of us can relate to that feeling. Have you ever felt that way? You know, where you're just like, wow, where did the last month go?
Oh, yeah, all the time?
Yeah, like you just blink and it's gone.
Yeah, that's like a super common problem. And the authors even call it the busy bandwagon, right? Where there's this cultural pressure.
Oh, the busy bandwagon.
Well,
I like that.
yeah, that we should be busy all the time. And that busyness somehow equates to being productive. And I think a lot of times it just leaves us feeling depleted.
Totally. And then on the flip side of that, you've got what they call the infinity pools.
Yeah, the infinity pool.
Which I think is so brilliant.
It's so good.
Because it perfectly describes all of those things, you know? Like social media feeds and streaming services, all these endless feeds of information and entertainment.
Huh.
And they're designed to keep us hooked, right?
Totally.
And they really, really work. You know, I think about how many times I've just fallen into an infinity pool and hours have gone by and I'm like, wait, what was I doing?
It's scary how good they are at what they do.
Yeah.
But so this book gives us a way to kind of combat these two forces, the busy bandwagon and the infinity pools. It's a really simple framework. It's only 4 steps, but it's super powerful.
Oh, I like it when things are simple and powerful. That's the best combination.
Right.
Okay, so tell me, what are these 4 steps?
The steps are highlight, laser, energize, and reflect.
Okay, highlight, laser, energize, and reflect. All right, well, let's unpack these one by one because I'm really intrigued. So first up, highlight. What is that all about?
Highlight is about choosing your single most important task for the day. The one thing that you want to make time for no matter what. That's like your North Star.
Oh, I like that, your North Star.
For the day. And they really emphasize the importance of writing it down. So just jotting it down on a sticky note or in your planner, wherever.
Doesn't have to be fancy.
Doesn't have to be fancy at all. Just get it out of your head and onto paper.
Got it.
And they also encourage you to actually block time on your calendar for your highlight.
Block time on your calendar.
Even if it means that you have to bulldoze other meetings or other appointments that were already there.
Whoa, 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 hold on. Bulldoze. Like get rid of other things that are already on the calendar.
Yeah, like really treat it as a meeting with the most important person in your life, which is you.
Okay, I'm kind of liking this already.
Right.
So like if I know that my most productive time is say 9:000 in the morning, I should block that off every day for my highlight.
Yes. And they have a great example in the book of this Google manager named Graham. And this guy always seemed to have time for himself despite being incredibly busy. And it turns out what he would do is block off his mornings on his calendar.
So he was an early morning highlight person.
For personal projects.
That's awesome.
And treat them as sacred. No meetings, no interruptions. That was his time.
I mean, that's amazing. And you know what I like about this? It's like making a conscious decision to say no to certain things so that you can say yes to the things that matter most to you. It's not just letting other people dictate your day.
I think that's a really important point.
All right, so I'm sold on highlight.
Oh,
I'm going to try that. But now what? I mean, how do we actually stay focused on that highlight and avoid getting sucked into, well, you know, those infinity pools that we were just talking about?
So that's where laser comes in.
Okay, laser.
Which is all about eliminating distractions and achieving deep focus.
Oh, we need that.
We do. And you know what's interesting about this section is how much Jake and Jay-Z's personal experience shines through. So Jake worked on Gmail and Jay-Z worked on YouTube.
Whoa, wait a minute. So they helped to create the very infinity pools that they're now teaching us how to escape from.
That's exactly right. They are very self-aware of that. But that being said, they have developed some really effective tactics for breaking free, right?
Okay, like what?
So one of the things that they talk about that stands out is the idea of a distraction-free phone.
A distraction-free phone. Okay, I got to be honest. When I first read about that, I was like, there's no way. I could never do that. But the more I thought about it, the more intriguing it became. So tell me, what does that even look like?
So it's not about ditching your smartphone altogether, but rather just removing the most tempting apps, the ones
Yeah.
that you tend to mindlessly scroll through.
Okay, so like social media, news apps.
Exactly. Games, anything that just pulls you away from your highlight.
So basically turning your phone back into, well, a phone,
A phone, right?
just using it for communication.
And you know what's interesting? They've both been using distraction-free phones for years and report feeling less anxious,
Really?
more present, and more in control of their time.
That's amazing because I will say, even when I just put my phone away, if I leave it in the other room for like an hour, I come back and I'm like, oh, I feel so much better. Like I didn't realize how much it was weighing on me.
Totally.
So it's like you can still access all the things you need, like maps and music and all of that. It's just you're being more intentional about what you allow to take up your time and attention.
Exactly.
Okay, so removing tempting apps. That's a good one. What else?
Another thing that they talk about is creating barriers to distraction.
Barriers to distraction. Okay.
So they suggest things like logging out of apps, turning off notifications, which I'm sure you've heard before, but it's so effective.
It really is.
Putting your willpower on autopilot.
I like that. So instead of relying on willpower alone, you're setting up your environment in a way that actually supports your focus.
Yeah, because willpower is definitely a finite resource. It gets depleted, so if we can kind of outsource that to our environment a little bit, that's helpful.
Right, and we have to because we're constantly bombarded with information. So it's important more than ever to just be proactive about protecting our attention.
Okay, so we're setting up our environment to support our focus. But what about distractions that come from other people? Like, when a colleague asks you to do something that doesn't really align with your highlight.
Yeah, so for those situations, they have a really fun and memorable tactic for saying no.
Okay, tell me.
It's called the Sour Patch Kid method.
The Sour Patch Kid method.
All right.
All right, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
It's super simple, but it's so effective. So you basically start with a sour no, like clearly stating that you're unavailable, but then you follow it up with a sweet alternative or an expression of gratitude. So instead of just saying, sorry, I can't, I might say something like, I'm really swamped with my highlight right now, but I appreciate you thinking of me. Maybe we can connect next week.
Exactly.
Like, love that.
You got it.
So it's like you're being assertive, but you're also being kind.
Exactly.
Okay, I love that analogy. Sour Patch Kid method. I'm going to use that. So what about those times when we do actually have to engage with our distractions? Like checking email or going on social media. Are they saying just don't do those things at all?
Not necessarily. What they suggest is to schedule dedicated time for those activities rather than letting them bleed into your entire day.
Oh, so batching them.
Exactly.
So instead of like mindlessly scrolling through Twitter every 5 minutes,
Yeah.
Set aside a specific 30-minute block to catch up on your feeds
Right.
so that you can enjoy it.
You can enjoy it guilt-free and it's not derailing your whole day.
All right, so we've got a highlight. We're armed with some laser tactics to fight those distractions. But what happens when our energy dips?
Oh.
That's where Energize comes in, right?
Energize comes in.
All right, tell me about Energize.
So this is all about taking care of your physical well-being, to fuel your brain, to boost your focus. And they introduce this fun analogy called Urk, the hunter-gatherer.
Urk, the hunter-gatherer. Okay, now you're speaking my language.
So Urk represents our ancestors,
Yeah.
right, who live very different lives than we do. They were constantly moving. They were eating real food. They were sleeping under the stars.
Living that good life.
And so while they're not advocating that we all go back to living in caves and, hunting and gathering our own food.
Although it does sound kind of nice sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes it does.
But they do think that there are some valuable lessons that we can learn from Urk's lifestyle.
Absolutely. And that can help us be more energized in our modern lives.
I like it. Okay, so what does Urk have to teach us?
So first of all, Urk was constantly on the move. So this section really emphasizes the importance of daily, doable exercise.
Doable, I like that. It doesn't have to be crazy.
Yeah.
Just consistent movement.
Right.
Okay, so like what? Give me some examples.
They even mention the 7-minute workout, which is a really quick, effective way to get your blood pumping.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. I think I even tried it once.
It's great. And then also Jay-Z, he has his own routine called the 3x3 routine.
The 3x3 routine. What's that?
Yeah, so it's basically 3 sets of 3 exercises. Push-ups, squats, and lunges.
Oh, okay, so like a little strength training circuit.
Exactly, and you do them with short rests in between.
Okay.
And it's amazing how just a few minutes you can get a really good workout in.
I mean, and you know what I like about these examples? It's not about going to the gym for an hour. It's about finding ways to incorporate movement into your daily routine,
Right.
whether it's taking the stairs or walking to a colleague's desk instead of emailing them.
It all adds up.
Yeah, little things make a big difference.
Absolutely.
All right, so exercise, super important. What about food? What did Irk eat?
Well, Irk ate real food, whole food, nothing processed or packaged, so they encourage us to do the same.
To fuel our bodies with foods that actually give us sustained energy.
Exactly.
Okay, so like less takeout, more home
More
cooking.
home cooking, meal prepping.
And they're not talking about these elaborate recipes.
No, just simple whole food ingredients.
Okay, that I can get behind. I do feel better when I cook more.
Right.
It's just finding the time. That's the tricky part.
Yeah, that's always the tricky part. But they also talk about caffeine.
Ooh, caffeine. Important topic.
Important topic. So they suggest waking up before you caffeinate, which I know might sound crazy to some people.
Yeah, that is a radical concept.
It is. But it's to allow your body's natural energy levels to rise first.
And they talk about having your coffee before you crash, not when you're already exhausted. Like, don't use it as a pick-me-up,
Right.
which I am definitely guilty of.
I think we all are.
And then they even mention something called a caffeine nap, which is like you have a cup of coffee and then you immediately take a 20-minute nap.
It sounds weird, but it's actually a really cool concept because the caffeine kicks in as you're waking up.
Oh, so you get this like double boost of energy.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Have you tried it?
I haven't tried it yet, but it's definitely on my list.
It's on my list too. I'm very intrigued.
All right, so we've got exercise, food, caffeine. What else falls under energize?
We also have to talk about sleep. Remember, Irk slept in a cave, no screens, no artificial light,
Just pure darkness.
just pure darkness. So
Yeah.
the book emphasizes creating a bedroom that's a true sanctuary for sleep. Cool, dark, and free from any distractions.
So like no TV in the bedroom.
Ideally no TV, and definitely no phones.
Get that phone charger out of there
Yes.
because it's so tempting to scroll before bed.
I know.
And it's the worst thing for your sleep.
It is. It totally messes with your circadian rhythm.
And they talk about sticking to a consistent sleep schedule, even on weekends,
Right.
to regulate your body's natural sleep-wake cycle.
That's one I definitely need to work
I
on.
think that's one we all struggle with.
Yeah.
But I know I always feel so much better when I'm well rested.
It makes a huge difference.
Okay, so we've talked about highlight, laser, and energize. What's the final piece of the make time puzzle?
So the final piece is reflect.
Reflect, okay. So we highlight, we laser, we energize, and then we reflect. Let's talk about that in part 2 after a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be right back.
See you soon. Okay, so reflect. What is that all about?
Well, this step is really all about taking a step back and evaluating what's working and what's not.
Oh, okay. So like a little self-assessment.
Exactly, and the authors really encourage you to think of make time as an ongoing experiment.
That makes sense because like we're all different.
Right,
So what works for one person might not work for another. So it's all about figuring out what works best for you.
that's exactly it.
Okay, so how do we do that? How do we figure out what works best for us?
So they actually suggest keeping a make time journal to track your experiments so you can see what's making a difference in your daily life.
Oh, interesting. So just like a little notebook where I can jot down my thoughts and observations.
I like that. You know, it's kind of like make time isn't about achieving some like perfect level of productivity.
No, not at all.
It's about progress, not
Yeah.
perfection.
Absolutely.
And it's about giving yourself permission to like fall off the wagon sometimes because life happens.
Exactly. And the key is to notice when you've veered off course and to just gently guide yourself back.
Yeah, and I like how they talk about how neither of the authors uses every single tactic all the time.
Right.
It's about adapting your approach based on what you need at that moment.
Absolutely.
Finding that sweet spot where you feel more in control of your time and energy and not like you're constantly battling, you know?
Totally.
So were there any like specific tactics that really resonated with you?
You know, one that I found super helpful is the idea of batching the little stuff.
Batching the little stuff.
So all those small administrative tasks, that can just clutter up our day, like answering emails, scheduling appointments, paying bills, you know, all that stuff.
Oh my gosh, yes. It feels like it never ends.
Right. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yes, exactly.
So instead of letting these tasks like interrupt your flow throughout the day, what they suggest is setting aside a specific time each week to power through them all at once.
I see. So it's like creating a designated busy work zone
Exactly.
so that it doesn't bleed into your highlight time.
You got it. Be strategic and intentional, even with the, you know, not so fun tasks.
Okay, I like that. What about you? Were there any tactics that really stood out to you?
Well, I really liked the idea of the might-do list.
My-do list.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but I tend to like really overestimate what I can actually accomplish in a day.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
My to-do list often ends up looking more like a wish list.
Same.
And so the might-do list is basically for those tasks that you'd like to do someday,
Okay,
but that aren't like urgent or essential right now.
I see. So it's like a holding space for those someday tasks.
Exactly.
So they're not constantly cluttering up your mind and making you feel stressed.
Right. And if you find yourself with some extra time and energy, you can always revisit the might-do list and be like, okay, now I can tackle this.
Okay, I like that. My-do list. I'm going to try that one too.
You should. It's a good one. They also have this idea called running a personal sprint.
Running a personal sprint.
Well, which is a concept that's borrowed from their work with design sprints, which they talk about in their other book, Sprint.
Oh, yeah, Sprint. I love that book.
It's so good.
It's a fantastic resource.
It is.
So what's a personal sprint?
Well, it's basically like a really focused burst of effort
Okay.
on a specific project or a goal that you've been wanting to make progress on. So you pick your highlight,
Okay.
map out your plan for the week, and then you just go all in,
Back to you.
dedicating a certain amount of time each day to working on it.
So it's kind of like giving yourself a mini deadline.
Exactly, to create that sense of urgency and momentum.
And often, like, that initial push is all you need to kind of break through that inertia.
Well-
That's cool. And it's funny because it's like this book is packed with so many actionable strategies.
It really is.
And one of the things I appreciate most about it is how much emphasis they put on self-awareness. Like
Yeah.
really tuning into your energy levels and your natural rhythms and what works best for you.
For example, they have different tactics for morning people versus night owls.
Oh, that's smart.
So Jay-Z, he's like a total morning person.
Okay.
He wakes up before dawn to tackle his highlight.
Wow, I am not that person.
Me neither.
But then Jake is more of a night owl, so he prefers to do his most important work in the evening after his kids are asleep. It's about working with your natural tendencies, not against them.
Exactly.
Which I think is so key because so often we're trying to fit ourselves into some kind of mold that doesn't actually work for us.
Absolutely. You know, another thing they emphasize, the importance of taking real breaks
Real breaks, okay.
throughout the day. This is something that like we often forget to do in our always-on culture.
Yeah, it's true.
We eat lunch at our desks, we scroll through our phones in meetings, we're constantly checking email,
We're never really off.
right?
It's like we're always connected.
But those aren't real breaks, right? Those don't allow our brains to actually disconnect and recharge.
No. And they say to take breaks without screens.
Without screens. Just go for a walk, chat with a colleague, step outside, just breathe for a few minutes.
Connect with the physical world
Yeah,
instead of the digital world.
yeah. And those real world breaks can actually boost your energy and your focus, making you more productive in the long run.
It's almost like hitting a reset button.
Totally.
Okay, so we can't talk about energize without talking about sleep.
That's true.
They have a whole chapter dedicated to optimizing sleep. And it really is all about making your bedroom a sanctuary for rest, like we talked about earlier.
Cool, dark, and free from distractions.
Yeah. And they even suggest this kind of radical idea, moving your phone charger out of the bedroom.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So you're not tempted to scroll before bed or first thing in the morning.
That's so smart.
Right. It's so tempting to just reach for your phone.
I know. I do it all the time.
I do too.
Yeah.
But if it's not there, then you can't do it.
You can't do it.
And that's the thing about this book. It's like, it goes beyond just time management,
Totally.
It's about like creating a life that feels more intentional and fulfilling.
Yeah.
And it's about making time for joy and creativity and connection and rest, all those things that are so important.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about getting more done. It's about getting the right things done.
Yes. That's a great way to put it.
It's about escaping the busy bandwagon
The busy bandwagon.
and the infinity pools and designing a life that is more spacious,
Yeah.
meaningful,
Totally.
and really aligned with what you value.
It's about remembering that you have more control over your time than you think.
Yes. And that is such a powerful message.
It is.
Because I think we often feel so powerless, like we're just caught up in this whirlwind of busyness. But this book is a reminder that we can step off.
we can step off the busy bandwagon
You can step off the busy bandwagon. We can choose to reclaim our time and our attention.
and create a life that feels more aligned with who we really are.
That's beautiful. Well, this has been such a fantastic deep dive
I know, this book is so good.
into Make Time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this question. What someday project might you be able to make time for today? Let us know in the Books on the Mic community. We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences. Until next time, happy reading, and may your days be filled with intention, focus, and joy.
Yeah, it's so powerful to realize that we actually do have control over our time and we can design our days. It's so easy to forget that. I feel like
Totally.
we've covered so much. Is there anything else from Make Time that you think our listeners should really know about?
One thing that I keep coming back to is this idea that make time is a journey, not a destination.
Oh, I like that. It's not about reaching this perfect level of productivity, but it's about continuing to experiment and adjusting your approach to find what works for you as things change.
It's about embracing the process, the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, and just learning and tweaking your make time strategies as you go.
Absolutely. And remember, even small changes can make a big difference. So the book actually recommends that you start with just 3 tactics, one from highlight, one from laser, and one from energize.
Okay, so maybe I decide to block off an hour each morning for my most important task. And I also turn off my phone notifications during work hours, and I make sure to take a 15-minute walk outside every day.
Exactly. Small changes, but done consistently, they can really make a big difference in your overall well-being and productivity.
It's like those little things that add up over time.
Absolutely.
Well, Make Time really is such a fantastic guide. It's so practical.
It is.
And it's so refreshing to read a book that's about making these conscious choices with our time and our energy.
It's about designing your days in a way that actually reflects your values and priorities.
Exactly. Instead of just letting ourselves get swept away by, you know, the busy bandwagon and the infinity cools.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up this deep dive into Make Time. It really is a powerful reminder that we have more control than we think we do,
Absolutely.
and we can choose to step off that busy bandwagon. So as we leave you today, I want to ask you, what someday project might you be able to make time for today? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Come share them with us in the Books on the Mic community. Until next time, happy reading. And may your days be filled with intention and focus and, of course, a little bit of joy.